In this lesson, we're going to take another look at dividing polynomials. And in this case, we're going to look at those special cases where when we're dividing by something, this number right here that's in red is not 1. Because when that's not 1, you have to do something special. And so we're going to look at those cases today. And so what you want to do is you want to take this number right here and divide every single thing by that. So whatever that number is, if it's a 3, if it's a 4, whatever, you're going to divide every single thing by that. And so then what happens, if I take 8x cubed and divide it in half, I have 4x cubed. 12x squared cut in half would be 6x squared. Negative 4x divided by 2 would be negative 2x. Negative 6 divided by 2 would be negative 3. Divided by, and then if I take 2x divided by 2, I have x, and 1 divided by 2 would be 1/2. Okay? So this is what you're going to look at for this problem. Then you're going to do just synthetic division, just how we did it the other day, and so you'll look at the coefficients, and you will put this, the coefficients in a row here, so 4, 6, -2, and -3. Notice I did go from x cubed to x squared to x to a constant, so I don't need to fill in with any zeros. And then if I go ahead and solve this x minus 1/2 for 0 by adding 1/2, you will see that 1/2 is what is going to go in the box over here. All right. So now we're going to follow the same process. It's just not necessarily with as pretty of numbers, okay? So we'll go ahead and bring this 4 down. And we'll still multiply kitty corner and add up and down. So 4 times 1/2 would be 2. And now I add 6 plus 2 to get 8. And then 8 times kitty corner 1/2 would be 4. And -2 plus 4 is 2. And then 2 times 1/2 is 1. And -3 plus 1 is -2. So you can see that I have a remainder here. Okay, so here's my remainder. All right, and so what I divided by really was this. Now, when I set up my synthetic division, this is what I was dividing by, was my x minus 1/2. So what I really have here, since I started with an x cubed term here, this will be an x squared term because it will be 1 less than that. So I will have 4x squared plus 8x plus 2 plus, and then I have my remainder here, which is a -2 over x minus 1/2. And you never want to leave fractions within fractions. It's just not mathematically polite. So what I will do is I will go ahead and I have this ugly, this is what's making that problem ugly, which is making a fraction within a fraction. And so I will go ahead and multiply every single term by 2. And when I multiply this term by 2, those just cancel. And obviously -2 times 2 would be -4. And then 2 times x would be 2x. And those just cancel, so that's what I've got there. So this now becomes my final answer once I simplify that kind of ugly fraction. Okay? So that's how you deal with that. We'll do a couple more just to practice these, and then we'll go on. We are going to skip number 2 because I think it would be kind of overkill, and we'll go ahead and do number 3. All right? So same kind of a process here. We have this coefficient that is not 1, it's a 3. So I need to take my entire problem and cut everything in thirds, okay? So 6x squared divided by 3 would be 2x squared. -1x divided by 3 would be -1/3 x. -7 divided by 3 would be -7/3. Okay, and then 3x divided by 3 would just be x, and 1 divided by 3 would be 1/3. Okay, so now I can set up my synthetic division. Hopefully you can figure out that if I set this equal to 0 and solve it, I will just get -1/3, and that's what will go in the box. And my coefficients do go from x squared to x to a constant, so I don't need to fill in any blanks. My leading coefficient here is a 2, and then a negative 1/3, and then a negative 7/3. So we do have fractions here, but I don't want you to be intimidated by that. It'll be just fine, okay? We'll bring down this 2, and then 2 times negative 1/3 is negative 1/3. And now you have to add negative 1/3 plus negative 1/3. If you need to use your calculators, go ahead and do that. Oops, this is not negative 1/3, it's negative 2/3, sorry. 2 times negative 1/3 is negative 2/3. And then negative 1/3 and negative 2/3 is negative 1. And negative 1, kitty corner multiplying by that negative 1/3. Negative 1 times negative 1/3 is positive 1/3. And negative 7/3 plus 1/3 is 6/3. And 6/3 would reduce to negative 2. Okay, negative 6/3 would reduce to negative 2. So again, I started out with an x squared term. So this would just be x. So now I have 2x minus 1 plus negative 2 over what I divided by. And I divided by, remember when I set up my synthetic division, I was dividing by x plus 1/3. Okay, and again, you don't want to leave fractions within fractions. So this is what's making that ugly in this case. So I will go ahead and multiply everything by 3. Okay, those will cancel, and I will have negative 6 over 3x plus 1 as my remainder. All right. And I think we'll just do one more here. We will skip 4 and we will skip 5 and we will go all the way to number 6. Okay. One more, just for good measure. All right, again, my leading coefficient in this case is a 3, so I need to take everything and divide it by 3. So 6x cubed divided by 3 would be 2x cubed, and 5x squared divided by 3 would be 5/3 x squared, and negative 2x divided by 3 would be negative 2/3 x, and 1 divided by 3 would be 1/3. Okay, keep going. 3x divided by 3 is just x, and 1 divided by 3 is 1/3. So now I have this set so that I can set up my synthetic division here. And again, if I set this plus 1/3 equal to 0, x will be negative 1/3. And so that's what will go in the box. All right, and if I look at my coefficients, I don't need to fill in any zeros because I do go from x cubed to x squared to x to a constant, okay? So my leading coefficient here would be a 2, and then 5/3, and then negative 2/3, and then 1/3. And I know we have fractions, but don't freak out about that. I'll go ahead and bring my 2 down. 2 times negative 1/3 is negative 2/3. And then 5/3 plus a negative 2/3, or 5/3 minus 2/3, is 3/3, which is 1. And then 1 times negative 1/3 is negative 1/3. And then I add negative 2/3 plus negative 1/3 would be negative 3/3, and negative 3/3 would reduce to negative 1. And negative 1 times negative 1/3 would be positive 1/3, and 1/3 plus 1/3 makes 2/3. All right, I started with an x cubed term up here, so that means my answer will be 1 less than that and be an x squared term. So my answer will be 2x squared plus x minus 1 plus 2/3 over whatever it was I divided by. And if you remember up here, I divided by x plus 1/3. Okay, and now we've kind of got two fractions that are making this ugly, that make me have a fraction within a fraction. This makes it ugly and this makes it ugly. Luckily, they're the same number, so I can just go ahead and multiply every single term by 3. And those will drop, and those will drop, and then this will become a 3x. So I will have 2 over 3x plus 1. as my remainder, and then the rest of it will stay the same. Okay, and that's how you deal with that coefficient not being 1.